Welcome to the channel. In today's video, we are going to be talking about BMW's recent service bulletin that they just recently released about the Driveshaft on the K5X model series motorcycle. So the K5X series, I know that's confusing to some people. A lot of people have been messaging me asking, is my bike affected by this? Like, what does that mean for me? What does that mean for you guys? So I'm going to go over everything. If you have any questions that I didn't cover, mention it in the comments below, and I'll be sure to go through all the comments and just try to address everyone's comment and just give you guys my genuine opinion and kind of what I think about the situation, I guess. So, is your bike affected? That's a question I've been getting a lot. So the K5X model lineup, BMW has like a model designation for each type of motorcycle, or at least each motor, we'll say. So the K5X is going to be all liquid-cooled boxer engines. So there's the first version of the K5X is going to be like the 2012 R1200 GS. That was the first, when BMW first introduced the liquid-cooled engine, it was that R1200 GS liquid cooled, and then they came out with the R1200 RT liquid cooled, so on and so forth. They came out with the R12R, R12RS, all those different engines that, or all those different bikes that utilized that same liquid cooled boxer engine that all share the same drive shaft part number. So everything, even the R1250s, those are also included as a K5X. So it's going to pretty much, if you have a boxer engine, that's the ones with the cylinders out the side, I hope you guys know that, liquid cooled, so not to be confused with like an oil cooled model, but a liquid cooled with the radiators in the front, that is going to be a K5X. Model years like 2012 was the first introduced as a GS, all the way up to the R1250s, when I think they're recalling all the way up to model year 2024. So pretty much R1200 liquid cooleds from 2012 all the way up through the R1250s to the current model year. So when I've heard about that, the first thing I thought about was, what about the R1300 GS that just came out? And I was quick to go up and look at my parts fiche just to see, like, I know the R12, I've yet to work on an R1300 yet. The second one comes in, I'll be the first person, or the first chance I get to work on an R1300, I will make a video on it, regardless of what I'm doing. So probably a service or something. But I was quick to look up the parts diagram on the R1300, and I found that the R1300 uses a different part number. I can't tell you what that means. I'm sure potentially the length is different, or if they improved the quality of some components, which I find tough to believe, because if they've used a different U-joint in there, that's gonna make it last the life of the motorcycle, kind of like I would say what BMW intended these drive shafts to be, to last the whole life of the motorcycle. Also, like, these drive shafts have always kind of been we'll say a maintenance point, but it was never a maintenance point that BMW called out. So kind of jumping around here, but the R1300s, those drive shafts, when I looked it up, those are $1,500 drive shafts. And the R1200, the K5X, the ones that are affected, those also used to be a $1,200 drive shaft, which was crazy because, I mean, I'm an independent motorcycle shop here. Obviously, I'm not a licensed BMW dealership. I don't buy, sell new BMW motorcycles. I'm just doing this out of my garage at home. And I have replaced 30 drive shafts in the K5X series. I think I've done 2 videos. I've done one replacing the drive shaft on a R1200 RS. Then I've also done a video replacing a drive shaft on a R1250 RT, I believe. And both of those bikes use the same drive shaft. So I went and looked at the parts fiche, and those drive shafts, I mean, they used to be $1,200. And now BMW has those marked down to $225, which is just crazy because, and I almost feel bad for some of my customers that, paid $1,200 to have the drive shaft replaced, and now the drive shafts are $200. But the 1300 drive shafts, I looked at the parts fiche, and those are $1,500 yet. So obviously something's different, something's changed. That I couldn't tell you. We'll report back on that later. But with going into the service bulletin, I'll have it pulled up here on the screen. You can pause the video and read through it. If your bike's affected, you should be getting one in the mail. But pretty much what it says is every 1,200 miles, every 12,000 miles, they call out the drive shaft to be inspected and greased. So by using a LED tester. So when they say that, what they're telling the shops to do is basically there's a rubber boot on the front of the swing arm. What they're going to do is pull that back and slide the drive shaft back, and you'll be able to grease that front spline without removing the swing arm. So that's something super easy that you guys can do at home. And on the back splines, what they're going to have you do is drop the rear drive down and grease the splines on the back side of the drive shaft. So you'll be greasing both male and female ends with the same grease that I use. I'll have the grease that, if you guys want to do it at home, I'll have the special grease that BMW wants you using linked down below. It's like a moly lube. It's like a graphite type lubricant. And what fails on these drive shafts is those U-joints. So when you go in there to grease these shafts, they're going to have you inspect the U-joint, and obviously if the U-joint is showing signs of wear, I wish I had some U-joints here. I had a whole 5-gallon bucket full of these drive shafts that I used to keep around just to show people, and I've since thrown those or recycled them all. But the new maintenance procedure has you greasing it every 12,000, and then the real kicker is every 36,000 miles, the BMW wants you to replace that drive shaft, which is like crazy to me. But to add that to basically BMW coming out and saying that their drive shafts are now a disposable, like their drive shafts are like spark plugs. Like it's a complete disposable item. It's something like, it's almost like tires at this point. You put your drive shaft on, your drive shaft wears out, and then you put a new one in, which is just crazy to me. Like if you had a truck, that had a drive shaft, that'd be pretty crazy for like Chevy to say you need to replace your drive shaft every 36,000 miles. But BMW has stepped up to the plate and said that they will cover 100% of this portion of your service schedule. So BMW is going to be paying 100% for the life of the motorcycle for the 12,000 mile drive shaft spline greasing, and every 36,000 miles, so every 36,000 mile interval, BMW will be paying to have your drive shaft replaced, which is, in my opinion, that's BMW stepping up to the plate and kind of making it right, trying to keep your guys' business, keeping your guys' trust. And to me, I think they're doing the right thing. But at the same time, it's kind of like, how come other manufacturers don't have these issues? I mostly work on BMWs out of my garage here, but like I do dabble from time to time in other brands for, friends and family and stuff. And I've never replaced a drive shaft on any other motorcycle. And there's plenty of brands out there that use a drive shaft like BMW. So I don't know. What do you guys think? It's kind of crazy to me why they can't figure out a stout design that can last the life of the motorcycle. And when I first heard about this news about how BMW is going to be replacing the drive shaft, they're paying for it every 36,000 miles. When I first heard that, I'm like, well, kind of what's the catch? So what if I'm the third owner? Let's just say I had a R1250 GS, right? And I'm the third owner of it. well, why would I get because a lot of times, like, that stuff isn't going to transfer. It's only going to apply to the first owner. But I read through everything, and as far as I can tell, that is going to translate over to every owner. They say for the life of the motorcycle. So in fast forward 20 years down the road, I mean, if I bought a R1250 GS and, it's just approaching, say, 72,000 miles, I can bring that to a dealership and BMW is going to foot the bill for a new drive shaft. So honestly, I'm all for it, and especially if they're going to add that to the maintenance schedule after you guys have purchased your bike, kind of like when you guys go out and purchase a bike, like one of the things is like, how much is this bike going to cost me? Like, how much is it going to cost me to maintain, right? Obviously, that the bike needs oil changes and it needs spark plugs. Those are pretty normal things, but it's like the cost to own the bike. What is that gonna cost me? And then all of a sudden, if they told you, well, every 36,000 miles, on top of all these other things, you're also gonna have to replace this drive shaft. That's another $225 and another hour labor. And shop labor rates are ridiculous these days. So it's gonna cost me an extra $500. A lot of times that might, turn someone away, right? Like, maybe that, maybe that Honda, that African Twin over there, that's starting to look a little bit more appealing to me. But, BMW stepped up to the plate, and I'm kind of, honestly, the questions I have, which we're gonna find out, only time will tell, is with the 1300 GS. Obviously, it's a new part number. I would assume that it's a more stout design that's going to be designed to last the life of the motorcycle, especially at the price point, being, like 8 times as much. Like, why can't they use those, like, come up with a updated design, where they use these updated U-joints or whatever it is that's different in these drive shafts, where it's just a one-time thing and then you don't have to worry about it anymore. But I don't know. What do you guys think? Yeah, I know BMW also, was it like last year they came out with a recall on the rear drive shaft to add, I think it was just for the GS models, to add that breather in the bottom of the swing arm for to allow water to run out, like obviously they've known about this issue. And they also came out with something saying that if your drive shaft fails, it's covered. That was a service bulletin. I think it was last year. Maybe you guys could let me know in the comments. I'm kind of just spitballing this video here. But BMW has known about this issue for quite some time, and it took them this long to do something about it. I don't know. But, I mean, what does this mean for me? I guess I'm an independent shop, right? So will that hurt my business? Maybe. I think some people out there are going to, still, obviously I'm going to honor what BMW does. I'm not going to pay for a replacement of a drive shaft every 36,000 miles. But if someone brings me a K5X series motorcycle and the drive shaft's splines need to be done and they can get it done at the BMW dealership for free, honestly, it's not that big of a task. I'm going to end up having to do their rear drive oil anyway. So more than likely, not more than likely, but I will be just greasing their splines just out of just trying to stay with the times, we'll say. But I don't know. It's kind of an interesting thing. And if you guys have been with me for a while, I do work on a lot of these motorcycles. Like, I work on everything. I got a 1960 R60 right here, and then actually a lot of my bread and butter around here is the Airheads, just because no one in my area works on them. But the dealerships around here, there's a couple dealerships. I live in like the Minneapolis, St. Paul area, so there's a couple dealerships in the cities. And I think a lot of people just bring their bike to the dealership just to have everything documented and stuff, especially while their bike is in warranty. But once their bike comes out of warranty, a lot of people do bring their bikes to me. And if BMW is going to be replacing the drive shaft for free every 36,000 miles, I doubt the dealership is going to provide the customer with a drive shaft so they can bring it here to have me install it. I mean, I don't know. I guess I would. It's a pretty straightforward task to begin with if you watched my drive shaft replacement video. But I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. If you have any questions, I'll answer it in the comments. But my genuine opinion is I think BMW is doing the right thing. Trying to make it right for you guys, trying to keep you guys as customers. I mean, at the end of the day, maybe they just had a poor design. They ran with it, and now it's just now biting them in the butt. It's kind of one of those things where like it took 10 years for these problems to start appearing. Where they maybe when they did their initial testing, when they developed this drive shaft, everything was great, but then it really doesn't. I don't know, the real world scenario when you guys are doing your iron butt, ripping down the highway at 80, 90 miles an hour for hours on end, like maybe these kind of use cases they didn't test, and then going through grit and dust and dirt and all this stuff, and then after years and time, like I don't know, but let me know what you guys think. As always, have a safe ride.